Welcome back to the main stage. Please give a warm welcome in the chat to Charlie Mahoney.
Good morning again. I'm Charlie Mahoney, for those of you who haven't met me at the first session this morning, and I chair the Michigan Works Association Board of Directors. I hope your day is going as well as mine so far. It's been a pretty interesting day. This is an exciting way to do a conference. I certainly enjoyed our panel this morning with Jeff D'Onofrio, and we have another exciting and good discussion coming with Congressman Levin, where we're going to hear about what's going on at the federal level with workforce development and COVID relief. But it's now my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce the Michigan Works Association's 2020 Legislator of the Year, Representative Sarah Anthony. Representative Anthony is being recognized for her extraordinary leadership in advancing Michigan's talent and economic development efforts. Prior to being elected to represent Michigan's 68th district, Representative Anthony served as a legislative assistant to Representative Joan Bauer, where she worked closely with Lansing residents to streamline government services and with the neighborhoods to connect them to vital, important services and funds. In 2012, Lansing residents elected her to the Ingham County Board of Commissioners, making her the youngest African-American woman to serve in this capacity in the United States. During her time on the Ingham County Board of Commissioners, Representative Anthony was selected to serve on the Capital Area Michigan Works Administrative Board. Though Representative Anthony is no longer a member of the Capital Area Michigan Works Board, she has continued to support and fiercely advocate for workforce development and educational programs on a broader statewide stage, while continuing to be a friend to the Camway system and to the Michigan Works system, and a valuable partner in workforce development efforts. Thank you, Representative Sarah Anthony, for the great work you do every day to ensure that community partners, residents can access the services available to support their employment-related needs. Congratulations.
Hi, this is State Representative Sarah Anthony, and I am so honored to be the 2020 Michigan Works Legislator of the Year. This is such a cool honor. From my time at the Capital Area Michigan Works, serving on the administrative board, to my work here in the legislature, where I'm fighting every day for workforce development and education issues. This really aligns with my passion. Every single day, I love working to ensure that folks are connected to opportunity. And with Michigan Works and everything you all are doing to ensure those same things, I have really loved partnering with you all. I have to give a big shout out to my local Michigan Works, the Capital Area Michigan Works, which has had a recent transition in leadership, and I am so excited to work alongside you all. So again, thank you so much for this honor. I look forward to working with you and my legislators on both sides of the aisle to ensure that Michigan is top-notch in terms of workforce development issues. So thank you again for this opportunity and for this award. It truly means more than you know. So thank you, God bless, and as always, love Lansing and love Michigan.
Thank you, Representative Sarah Anthony. Please welcome back to the stage, Luann Dunsford.
Well, I hope all of you have had a really good morning. Very excited about how smoothly this is going, and I'm looking forward to the next couple of days. I am now honored to introduce my colleague and my friend, Stephanie Beckhorn. Stephanie is the Director of the Office of Employment and Training for the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. In this role, she works directly with federal, state, and local level partners to provide the connections, expertise, and innovative solutions to drive continued business growth and build vibrant communities and attract and retain key talent to fill Michigan's vast pipeline of opportunities. Drawing upon her nearly 20 years of experience in workforce and economic development, Stephanie develops policies that align with and support the state's workforce development strategies. She actively engages internal and external stakeholders to ensure policy and service delivery effectively addresses customer needs. Stephanie and I are very firm in the belief that you can get so much more done when you work together. Please welcome Stephanie Beckhorn.
Thank you, Luann. And I certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak at the first ever virtual Michigan Works annual conference. And like you, I'm finding myself in a lot of first ever situations this year as we continue to adjust to the completely different work environment that this pandemic has created. Certainly new for us, and just think about all of our customers and the new environment they are working in and trying to navigate. But I'm happy to say, despite that, the state of Michigan, just like the Michigan Works system, is working hard every day to serve our clients remotely. And together we're working to overcome the challenges of the pandemic and to continue to provide an exceptional customer service to our employers and to our job seekers. And so I really want to take this opportunity to highlight a couple of the key initiatives that we have been working on together jointly through that strong partnership that Luann mentioned. First is our virtual job fairs. So to date, we have been able to host 7 virtual job fairs across the state during the last 3 months. So this is an example of a service that we stood up very quickly to help, again, with that exceptional customer service and to better serve our job seekers and our employers who were staying home, staying safe. And so over the last 3 months, we have had 160 employers participate in the virtual job fairs, and we've had over 1,100 job seekers participate. And we're working really hard to collect outcome data. So not only do we want to host these virtual career fairs, but we want to make sure that they're successful. And we really want to understand how many new hires come about from these events. So we are going to be working with not only the host that organizes the event, but the employers that are participating to really ensure we have data to understand the effectiveness of these events. So we've had 7 to date. I'm happy to say we have 18 more events coming up this fall, with additional events being scheduled every week. So if you are a Michigan Works agency who is not held or has scheduled a virtual job fair yet, or if you're an employer who is your interest is piqued in a virtual job fair event, we really hope that you will consider participating. To best support individuals throughout the state whose employment was impacted by the pandemic, in addition to the job fairs, we worked with all of the Michigan Works agencies to put together a return to work playbook that's available on the state's Skills to Work website. I know that was mentioned this morning during Director Donna Frio's presentation. So that's michigan.gov/skills to work. And this is a digital hub that really helps individuals who are getting ready to get back to work, but need some help in preparing. So whether it's updating their resume or preparing for maybe their first virtual job interview. Imagine that, preparing for your first interview in general, but then adding on the additional layer of it's a virtual job interview. It also allows individuals to tap into some industry-specific training resources. And all of the resources in the playbook are free. And we certainly appreciate your help in promoting the site, because we do see long-term value of the playbook and the entire hub, the entire Skills to Work, long beyond the pandemic. The pandemic also inspired Governor Whitmer to introduce Futures for Frontliners program. I know Jeff in the panel this morning did a really good job giving you just a taste of that information. For those of you who were not able to see that presentation, Futures for Frontliners is the nation's first ever tuition-free college to the estimated 625,000 Michiganders who provided essential frontline services during the COVID stay home, stay safe state orders. So these were individuals that between April and June went to work while we stayed home, and they provided transportation. They worked in health clinics. They worked at food production plants. They stocked the shelves at our local grocery store. And so Futures for Frontliners really helps individuals that either have a high school diploma go on to post-secondary education, or even those who don't have a high school diploma, first step, getting them a high school diploma and then on to post-secondary education. The application period is now until December 31st. And more information can be found on the michigan.gov/frontliners website. But I also would encourage you, there's a workshop that a couple staff from Leo are providing. So if you look through kind of the sessions, I hope you take a look at it. It'll go into more detail about Futures for Frontliners. And we certainly know that there's still more to be done in addressing and tackling all the issues that we're currently facing. Another program that's currently on the horizon is the COVID National Emergency Grant. Over $3 million will be awarded to all 16 Michigan Works agencies to really restore health and the economic well-being of Michiganders that were, so impacted by the COVID. It really has a two-pronged focus, if you will. It's going to provide jobs to workers who have been unemployed due to COVID, and it's going to help create jobs that directly aid in the health and the economic recovery of COVID. So that would be employment opportunities like contact tracers, sanitizers, test site facilitators, and resource coordinators. We are also very proud that we were so successful over the summer in receiving multiple apprenticeship grants that really target apprenticeship expansion and services for adults and youth in the world of apprenticeship, with a strong emphasis on expanding veterans' use of apprenticeships and youth with disabilities. So again, I would encourage you to be on the lookout for upcoming information for tapping into these apprenticeship resources. I do have to say, I always look forward to this time of year because of the Michigan Works Conference, because I love fall, because I'm a big Spartan fan. Heard some news yesterday about the Big Ten. We'll see if that football season, so we'll see if that holds. But certainly the Michigan Works Conference is one of those reasons why I look forward to the fall, because it really gives us an opportunity to connect with so many of the workforce partners across the state, which is so critical. So although we're doing it virtually, I'm already seeing the same benefits. So I'm happy to be with you all today. During last year's conference, and Director Donofrio touched on this briefly, we were just kind of launching Leo, and we were just preparing of bringing together employment and training. So employment and training is bringing together workforce development and vocational rehabilitation together. So now we are, as the Bureau of Employment and Training, we are the Bureau of Services for Blind Persons, the Michigan Rehabilitation Services, and Workforce Development. And we're over 800 employees strong, all working together to promote a flexible, innovative, and effective workforce system by really developing customized workforce solutions for businesses and individuals, including with those with disabilities. So throughout this year's virtual conference, you're going to have ample opportunity to really learn more about employment and trainings programs and their administrations. We have members from our team that are presenting every day of this year's conference on a broad range of topics, including food assistance benefits, or SNAP, for career and tech ed students, the Perkins students, apprenticeship expansion, serving individuals with disabilities, credential attainment, cybersecurity in the workforce, credential engine. We already have, we had OSMIS updates this morning. We have RESEA updates, and even Training Connect. So lots of topics. I think your hardest choice is going to be which ones that you participate, because I know when I look through the sessions, there's so many good sessions happening at one time. So I really just want to, again, thank you for the opportunity here, and really want to thank all of the volunteers from across the Michigan Works system that really help provide unemployment insurance agency additional help over the past few months. I know the work the work that you did really, I'm sure, added to stress, which was already a very difficult time for you in navigating the new workforce world. But your assistance made such a huge difference in the lives of so many people who were scared, who were frustrated, and didn't really know where to turn. And I'm sure they found lifelong friends at Michigan Works because your compassion that you provided each person was so much appreciated. I had the opportunity to receive many notes of thanks from claimants, from employers, and even from legislators who said, if it wasn't for Michigan Works, I don't know what I would have done. So truly inspiring words of thanks from your customers, even tissue worthy, I will have to say, just on their stories of gratitude. So again, thank you for the help with unemployment insurance. Thank you with the help with WorkShare. As Director Donofrio said, it's made a direct impact on Michigan's economy. I think it is benefiting us long term, getting people back to work, getting dollars into the workforce system. So we certainly hope and look forward to continuing Michigan's economic recovery with you as a key partner. We're looking forward to 2021 as well. As we work on the task in front of us, we're also looking ahead. And you're really going to see a strong focus from Leo and specifically from employment and training on the promotion of equity and access for all in Michigan, regardless of your zip code or where you live, regardless of your educational level. Those are really what you're going to see us promoting and working for. So certainly hope that your continued partnership will help us move our goals forward and help us succeed. So thank you again for everything that you do. I'm certainly appreciative of your partnership, and I hope you all enjoy your conference.
So I was a little hesitant about this virtual conference and wondering how the energy and the passion and the commitment was going to come through, and I am blown away. I just can't believe every time I get up close with our system, the leadership at every single level and how we're able to move forward. Thank you, Stephanie, for all that you do every day. I also want to thank Congressman Levin for recently joining me for a one-on-one discussion regarding federal legislative activities related to workforce development. Congressman Levin has been advocating for working families since the 1980s when he organized hundreds of healthcare workers for the Service Employees International Union. From 1995 to 2006, Congressman Levin served as Assistant Director of Organizing at the National AFL-CIO. He took his advocacy work to Michigan state government, where he served as Michigan's Chief Workforce Officer and Deputy Director and Acting Director of the Michigan Department of Energy, Labor, and Economic Growth. He created and ran the state's No Worker Left Behind initiative that helped more than 160,000 unemployed and underemployed Michiganders go back to school to earn certificates and degrees, leading to in-demand jobs in Michigan during the auto industry crisis and the Great Recession. Speaking of his No Worker Left Behind initiative, Michigan Works was an integral part of carrying out that program. The concept of long-term training, industry clusters, and career pathways, a concept that has continued to live on through the Michigan Works demand-driven approach. The lessons the Michigan Works system learned during the Great Recession have prepared us very well to be the go-to source for workforce development needs during our recovery from this crisis. As the economy recovers, Michigan Works stands ready to connect job seekers with employers to fill their talent needs. Now let's listen to what Congressman Levin had to say in our recent conversation. Well, good morning, Congressman Levin, or as I like to call you, Andy.
Good morning, Luann. It's good to see you.
It is so good to see you, and I'm really encouraged to have leaders like yourself out in Washington, D.C. I know firsthand how passionate you are about fighting for what is right and fighting for everyone to have the ability to thrive by all your work that you did here in Michigan and carrying that out into Washington, D.C. Gives me hope for the future. So thank you.
Well, thanks, Luann. And it's great to get to work with you in this new way, like we used to work together when back in the day, when I was a teacher.
Right. So I have a couple of questions for you. The HEROES Act did not contain the same workforce development investment that Relaunching America's Workforce Act did. Obviously, we liked that one better. We believe in it. We know the investment is something that we want and need. But what can local workforce stakeholders do across Michigan to help you, to highlight the need and help you continue to fight that fight so that we can make sure that we've got the investments that we need?
Yeah, well, that's a really great question. I mean, obviously the COVID-19 pandemic has cost the lives of over 190,000 Americans and counting, and it's also caused what threatens to be the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression, especially if we continue to fail to take a strong public health approach to the virus. And we know workforce policy is going to be crucial to finding our way out since so many jobs have been lost. So let's start with the Relaunching America's Workforce Act. You know, I was a lead sponsor of it. I mean, it authorizes $15 billion to support the public workforce system, career and technical education, relaunching trade adjustment assistance for community college career training grants, and so on and so forth. And the CARES Act, which was our first response to the crisis, did include my bill, the COVID-19 Workforce Emergency Response Act. So that was a good first step in helping workers get back on their feet. That bill authorized $345 million in national dislocated worker grants for activities directly related to responding to the COVID-19 emergency, and gave added flexibility to state and local areas and so on and so forth. But now here we are, as you say, we passed the HEROES Act over 3 months ago, and it fell short of the $15 billion that we had in the Relaunching America's Workforce Act, as you say. But I think it's important to remember what it does include. It includes $2 billion for workforce development, extends the $600 a week in supplemental unemployment, expands paid leave, provides a second round of stimulus checks and bigger ones for every family, directs nearly $1 trillion to state and local governments, so to avoid a lot of layoffs and churn there, provides school with funding they need to reopen safely, directs OSHA to establish an emergency temporary standard to protect workers of all kinds from coronavirus, and invests $75 billion in testing and contact tracing to stop the virus in its tracks. So, you know, it had a lot, but it didn't have as much investment in the workforce system. And, you know, we've got tens of millions of people still out of work. More than 1 million people filed for initial UI claims and pandemic UI claims for 24 straight weeks. That's more claims than during the depths of the Great Recession. So I would say it'd be really important to continue to organize events to highlight the impacts of COVID-19 on employment, on job opportunities, on employers. I would say it's really important to use stories to underscore how COVID-19 is magnifying the normal churn of job destruction and creation, you know, that we always see. The public thinks it's just like an aggregate number. Did we have more jobs or less last month? But the workforce system knows that every month there's destruction and creation of jobs, and therefore the need to help companies train people for the new jobs that are coming. So I think really telling the story of how that's happening. And let me just give you an example. Yesterday, I did an event with Representative Earl Blumenauer, who joined us to talk with restaurant owners from my district to talk about the impact on that industry. So I think the more storytelling you could do, and nobody's better set to do it than the Michigan Works agencies around the state because of their incredible network of relationships with employers and people who are out of work.
Well, you are right. They are very much immersed in their communities and work very closely with their employers, because if you know where you need to go, you're able to use those resources wisely, well, efficiently, and making sure that you're really serving the job seeker and that supply side of the house in the best way possible. You know, there was a skills gap before this crisis. There's a skills gap now, and there's going to be a skills gap in the future. And the way for us to have the not only the current workforce but the talent pipeline, we're seeing the impact on our children. Those are the investments that we need, and I appreciate your grasp and understanding of that need and fighting for it. What economic strategies have you and the other House Democrats been focused on as we look forward beyond COVID-19? I mean, I know it's sometimes hard to raise us up and look beyond this because we're so much in the middle of it, but there is a future, and what are your thoughts?
Right, we have to. Well, and we were working on a lot of things before, you know, it reared its ugly head, and I think we have to take a long-term view. So let me share a few different ideas with you. We have to make job training and education accessible to everyone and affordable. Last spring, with colleagues from both parties, I introduced the Jumpstart Our Businesses by Supporting Students, or JOBS Act. And the idea there is to extend Pell Grant eligibility to qualified programs that are between 150 and 600 clock hours and at least 8 weeks in length. Basically making Pell Grants available for shorter term training and training that employers, need workers to complete. So people, it's not just the old model of, the full-time long-term student. It gives more flexibility, it would allow students applying for CTE and short-term education programs to qualify for Pell Grants. And it would, basically provide skill training opportunities for low-income individuals. This bill was also introduced in the Senate, and I really hope we can push that. In July of last year, Senator Tammy Baldwin and I reintroduced the America's College Promise Act. And that legislation would create a new federal-state partnership to provide 2 years of tuition-free access to community and technical college programs across the country that lead to a degree or industry-recognized credential. We just have to make sure that skills and credentials necessary to be successful in today's economy are attainable for working families. And the soaring cost of higher education, coupled with the student debt crisis, has really been a big factor in expanding the wealth gap in our country, exacerbating the problem of income inequality, and contributing to that skills gap you were talking about. So this bill basically makes community college free for any state that'll pay a quarter of it, while the feds pay 3/4. And Luann, I think the way Michigan is set up with the colleges having their own taxing authority, I think they would be in pretty good shape for this. So that's big. I also helped lead the Protecting the Right to Organize, or PRO Act, which passed the House on February 6th of this year, and would be the first really meaningful rewrite of worker organizing legislation since the Wagner Act itself 85 years ago. I also was an original co-sponsor of the Raise the Wage Act, which passed the House on July 18th of last year, and it would raise the federal minimum wage gradually over, at that time, the next 6 years, but over the next 5 years now, to $15 an hour. So those are some of the bills that are on the top of my list to help the workforce system and help workers, basically not be in poverty if they're working full time, and have access to the training they need so they can have a thriving career.
So ALICE is an acronym used the United Way, Asset Limited, Income Constrained Employed. And before
Right.
COVID, we're moving in the wrong direction. We used to be 40% of our families, now we're 43%. And it's exactly what you said. People are working. That idea that people don't want to work is wrong. People are working. They just haven't been able to, for one reason or another, get above that place to thrive through skills and education. And just so that people, so they don't forget this, you've been talking this talk and walking this walk for a very long time.
When you
All
were
right, let's not rub it in.
Hey, I've been there with you. I'm a
You and me.
witness to it. I'm a witness to
together.
it. Right. But when you were here in Michigan and you put forward that No Worker Left Behind program, and while that name doesn't still exist, you left behind a legacy of really looking at training and development differently. It isn't just one size fits all. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter, but the one thing that is constant and true is investment in skills and education and development is the way forward. And so you've been at this and continue to fight that fight.
Well, you're right. I mean, I think the thing is that a lot of times Congress will make policy without taking into consideration the training and the workforce part. So just to give you one example that I hope we're moving in a better direction, we passed the Moving Forward Act on July 1st, just recently, and that is our big infrastructure bill. It's long overdue, roads, bridges, sewers, but also broadband and a lot of green infrastructure. But it requires workers with specific skills, right, to rebuild our highways and bridges and transit and rail and airports and, everything. And we have strong Buy American provisions in there. We have strong labor provisions. But I think the key thing for this discussion is that we're going to have a lot of reskilling of the workforce, especially all the green aspects of this bill. And the Moving Forward Act really includes significant pieces on looking at the workforce training that'll be necessary, not just let's build from some infrastructure. And then the workers afterwards are like, oh, yeah, right, the training. So,
right. Well, and you are right. And I think I'll agree that many of the jobs that are going to be there tomorrow are jobs that are different than what are here today. That's clear. Well, I could talk to you all day, but I do have keep us on a time limit. My team will be looking at me over my shoulder. So in Michigan and across the country, we are concerned about the long-term impacts of COVID-19 and how it will disproportionately impact the most vulnerable populations. Federal resources, they're needed to target the inequity. What do you see? How can we work together? We're stronger together. How can we work together to accomplish this?
Oh, this conversation is so important, Luann, and it has so many pieces. We passed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act in the House under the leadership of the Black Caucus, Congressional Black Caucus, but it's so important for workforce policy itself. I mean, the pandemic has hit minority populations in terms of who contracted COVID-19, who died from COVID-19, who's faced unemployment as a result of the economic fallout. The number of working Black business owners, just to pick one example, dropped more than 40% when the country shut down. And a lot of those small businesses, are in danger of never coming back. So really what's happened is that COVID-19 has brought to light and exacerbated racial and social and economic inequalities that have been here for a long time. And so we really have to deal with that. We have to look at how institutional racism brought us to this point and address the structural problems that make it continue. And as a member of Congress, I'm really committed to examining policies through this lens and taking care to ensure that our work dismantles racist systems and truly raises the standard of living for all working people. There are so many examples of how to do this. But for example, the Restaurants Act, which I just sort of mentioned in passing earlier that I'm an original co-sponsor of with Earl Blumenauer, specifically looks to help this is only about independent restaurants, not chains of 20 or more, not publicly owned. It's all the really, the lifeblood of our communities, the smaller independent restaurants. And it particularly looks to help restaurants that were started and owned by chefs and business people of color and women and veterans. So we've got to just do that in all of our work, basically. That's my.
I guess I think the one thing that I'm grateful for, if there's anything, is that this conversation is happening now. It's at the front and center. And when you can become aware, you can change. There is hope for change. And that's where we're at. It is important, and we can't just stop the momentum. I think the train is leaving the station. We're going to keep it going. So WIOA authorization expires September 30th, 2020. It's like on the horizon. What policy ideas do you think we should be considering as we begin to look at reauthorization?
Yeah, well, as you know, I was really hopeful that we could drive, a real discussion about this. Now, because of COVID and the election year, it certainly doesn't look like we're going to be able to achieve a comprehensive reauthorization of WIOA until 2021. Of course, WIA took how many years before it was reauthorized, but I hope it won't be so long. And I, for one, just because of my background working with you, as we discussed, I started preparing for this last year. I convened members of Macomb St. Clair and Oakland Michigan Works and other stakeholders, the community colleges and so forth, to begin to talk about what's worked in WIOA, what hasn't, what could be improved. And so I'm really looking at focusing on the improvements that people are saying we need: more long-term training, more flexibility for training, preparation of workers and businesses, support for businesses to transition to a green economy, more certificate and degree attainment, certainly in line with what the governor wants to achieve, and an emphasis on apprenticeships. And we need to reauthorize the apprenticeship program as well. So I really, looking ahead to the next Congress, the 117th Congress, I want to pursue WIOA reauthorization as quickly as we can, because I know that the improvements that the folks I met with are talking about from their own lived experience running our Michigan Works agencies, running our one-stops, running our community college training programs, can really help the workforce development system in its continuous improvement effort that it's always driving. And so I really hope we can move forward in 2021. That's my goal. And I plan to try to be on the Education and Labor Committee again. I don't know if I'll be vice chair again, but we'll see. But I'll be there fighting for it.
Well, and as you know, all you have to do is pick up the phone, and you've got questions. We will convene whoever we need to convene to help inform and make sure that you get that information right from the ground up. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about today?
Well, let me just mention one more bill that's really topical to the COVID-19 situation. I introduced it with Senator Elizabeth Warren. A lot of it was included in the HEROES Act. It's called the Coronavirus Containment Corps, or the CCC Act. And the problem it addresses is that there simply aren't nearly enough contact tracers and case investigators in the US to mount the response that this pandemic necessitates. Since the Great Recession, nearly 50,000, I think, public health jobs have been lost in the United States. And public health departments have been severely underfunded, Luann. So the Coronavirus Containment Corps Act tackles that problem head on, investing in both the public health system, but also, since I'm the one who wrote the bill, in our workforce system to stop the coronavirus whole problem by taking a public health approach and by getting dislocated workers back on the job. We had, in part, our goal was to have state and tribal workforce agencies facilitate the training and the hiring of the contact tracers. And we're focusing specifically on Americans who are out of work, and specifically and again, this gets to your question about structural racism, drawing from the communities that they're going to work in, right, with all the diversity and all the language ability that are reflecting those communities they'll work in. Like in my district, you need people who speak Arabic, people who speak Chaldean, and so forth. And really also, again, because of my work with you all, building right in there, helping people transition to long-term employment after the pandemic. So the Coronavirus Containment Act, or the CCC Act, it definitely echoes Franklin Roosevelt's CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps. The idea is, okay, we've got a big problem. Let's step up with big solutions that train people to do the work we need to be done right now, and have that lead to long-term career opportunities for them in the public health departments, in the broader health sector, and in customer service more broadly, because the skills you need to do contact tracing are those kind of relational skills that are really important in retail as well as in healthcare. So, you know, that's one more specific thing that I think is really topical I wanted to mention.
Well, I have to say that in the middle of this crisis, it's easy to get really close into what's happening in your life only. But as I'm talking to you today, it's so encouraging to know that there is an awful lot of work that is being done, and ideas floated, bills introduced, a lot of working together to find solutions. And now, as we move forward, I think we've seen it time and time again that when we do work together, you know, united we stand. And I have great faith that our leadership out in Washington, D.C., both sides of the aisle, are going to be able to find a way to come together, because you cannot argue with wanting your communities to thrive, all communities to thrive.
Yes, you're so right, Luann. I just hope every day, I think, what can I do to get the Senate to come along with us? You know, they don't have to pass just what we pass, but pass something and make sure it includes the investments in the public workforce system, and in the sort of projects we need employers and workers to be able to do, to come together and have workers trained to do the jobs that employers need done right now, so we can get ourselves out of this pandemic, you know, out of this economic crisis. So we can do it, you know, you're right, but everybody has to come together and compromise and find a way to move forward.
Figure it out. So you keep fighting the fight out there. I'll commit to making sure that I rally us here, that we can get our message up. And I think working together, we can make it happen. So thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us today. And we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thanks so much, Luann. Take good care of yourself.
All right, you too. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for attending our conference today and our general session. Just a quick reminder to visit the exhibit booths and to take a few minutes to network virtually with your colleagues. You can interact live with the exhibitors in their booths, be randomly paired with another conference member for a 3-minute networking chat, chat privately with any member from the conference via the chat function. And I hope you enjoy the breakout session this afternoon. We've got a little bit of a break here right now to get some lunch and connect with each other. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the conference, and we will see you right here in the morning.
Heading for disaster, living by the skin of our teeth, begging